first confession is about, I'm struggling to connect with my wife sexually because of her illness. My wife has a fairly severe mental illness, which I knew going into our relationship, and don't hold against her in any way. Sex has always been something of a struggle between us. Obviously, it's not a huge priority to her, rightfully so. She's also on birth control, which she and her doctor admit kill her libido, but she won't change those because they stop her period, which I guess is more important, her body, so I don't get a say. For me, sex is important for bonding, and I used to have a high libido. I also just like it. It's fun, and it feels good. Admittedly, it got to the point where I knew our sex life would never be what I wanted, so at the recommendation of my therapist, I sort of stopped bothering. I don't want this to sound like I'm complaining, so I apologize off the bat. Her illness gets so severe sometimes, that I have to really take care of her. Making sure she works on coursework, making sure she eats, sleeps, takes her medicine. Sometimes it gets so bad I have to actually wash her. She sees a therapist regularly, once or twice a week. I don't want to get into the actual disorder she deals with and why, as it's fairly specific. I know how I sound complaining about a crappy sex life when she deals with this. I already deal with the guilt on that front. There are times when she'll ask me if I'm happy with our life. I am. Truly. I really, honestly, genuinely don't mind taking care of her, and it's not like it's always like that. On the whole, it's fairly normal. But there are times she will get inside her own head and tell herself she's not giving it up, her words, enough, so we'll have regular sex for a week or so every few months, and I know she's only doing it for me. We're in another cycle of her feeling bad about it currently. I already told her not to worry about it, I'm fine without it, I have my hand, etc., but she keeps pushing about it. The last few months have been particularly rough, worse than they ever have been, and I've had to take care of her a bit more than I'm used to. I feel really awful about this, but it's starting to become really difficult to look at her sexually, or even romantically. I'm finding it really hard to connect with her on that level anymore. I love her deeply, but there are times I'll be with her and I don't feel like a husband, or partner, or even a man sometimes. I just feel like a caretaker. She's offered sex or a blowjob here and there, but I just turn it down because, as nice as it would be, I genuinely don't even want it. I know she only offers them to me because she knows I'll be frustrated or haven't had a chance to masturbate. I feel like such a fuck up right now, and I'm not sure what to do. It's not like it would matter no matter what I did, but how do I get out of my head about this? How do I stop seeing her as someone I'm taking care of? Or is it even worth it, knowing everything she does is specifically for my benefit? The second confession is about, the more I think about it, the more I realize that, even though we have been together for well over a decade, sex with my wife continues to be the best damn sex I've ever had. We have always had a pretty good sex life, but the last couple of years it's like our sex drives have become sex overdrives. We're in our late 30s and fuck like teenagers. Is this normal? And the last confession is about, first post, I am 20, jealous over her, F20, sex toy. I, 20, have been in a relationship for 2 years with my GF, 20. I brought a lot of self-esteem issues and insecurities into the relationship, along with depression and anxiety. This has been really hard on my girlfriend at times. However, I'm pleased to say that after doing a tremendous amount of work on myself through counseling and self-help, I'm finally secure enough to lead a fulfilling life, although it is still a work in progress. Me and my GF have a very satisfying sex life. She has previously told me that she felt such a shame over masturbation she never could follow through with it. I took an immense amount of pride and security in knowing that I was the first to give her an orgasm. She now regularly orgasms during sex, and as aforementioned, gives me a huge sense of security. I bought her a bullet vibrator for her birthday last year. I thought if I bought her one she could use it when I'm not around, and I thought it would maybe help having a sort of stamp of approval from me for her to masturbate. She didn't use it for a year or so, until a couple days ago when she had an empty house. After I asked repeatedly if we could work it in during sex, the opportunity finally arose yesterday and she asked me if I wanted to use it on her. It was incredibly erotic, and she even ended up taking the vibrator off me and using it herself. I've never seen her do this before, and I found it even more erotic. She ended up having the largest orgasm I've ever seen. I wanted to be proud, but I was filled with such a feeling of jealousy that I receded into my bubble as I struggled to rationalize the feelings I was experiencing. She could tell I was feeling off and asked. I told her it was that whilst I was extremely proud of her, I had a wave of anxiety thinking I was going to be replaced. I was up for a good 45 minutes after that, trying to come to terms with it, feeling guilty as I knew this was such a huge step forward for her own body positivity. Does anyone have any experience or advice in dealing and overcoming something like this?